Hi, I'm Mike Sharman with Share Healthcare, and we're here at Homesteaders of America in Front Royal, Virginia. And fortunately, it's a beautiful day here, blue skies, warm weather. And I'm here with a warm friend, Daniel Salatin, and from Polyface Farms. And Daniel, Share Healthcare, we have 3 platforms: medical freedom, financial freedom, and religious freedom. So we like promoting freedom and individual responsibility, which goes with individual freedom.
Sure.
So that's a lot of what your family business has been.
Sure, absolutely, and it certainly is a good connection of our food freedom, and that's kind of what we're about, is the growing your own and being not dependent on grocery stores and supply chains and all those hot topics of the day, but also food freedom access, which is also a more limiting factor in our culture now than it could be in the future, of just the issue of being able to access that food in a way. Yeah.
Breaking that down in a way that you might be hesitant to say stuff, but people can grow their own food.
Right.
But then selling it to others is a big problem. When you say food freedom access, that's what you're meaning, right?
That's right. Yeah, to break it down into specifics, you can grow it all day long. It's not like illegal drugs in the U.S. where you can't grow it, you can't have it, and you can't sell it, and you can't possess it. In this situation, we can grow all we want, we can have all we want, and that's wonderful. And more people should do it, just by the group that's here today are doing it. But the ability to enter into commerce and to exchange those things, because not everybody wants to do this, right? Let's face it. I mean, not everybody wants to have animals 24/7. And as much as that might be a normal from cultural perspective, it's not something that everybody wants to do. And so the opportunity to be able to exchange, barter, or exchange in value of money, that's where the government at this point gets involved, and that's where things get a little sticky, as you say. But that's where we're really, there's a lot of ways to go about that, but all of those, both production and accessing markets and trying to find out where those barriers are and helping people overcome them in some way, in a profitable way, right? A sustainable way from a business perspective, is things that we're about.
I remember, I don't know if it's 25, 30 years ago, your dad, Joel Salatin, was willing to go to jail for that freedom food access.
Sure.
Why is it that important? Because he would have been a young kid at the time.
Right, yeah, I was
so
very
when
young,
a father is willing to go to jail over those principles, it obviously is important. Why?
Right. Well, I think it's one of those things when, certainly it was very impactful at that time in my life, and I remember thinking this is going to be not good.
Right.
But at the outset of it, it really is about, I think each of us have a heart burden. I was reading a book just recently that talks about what's the burden of your heart that God gives you. And it's not the same for every person, right? And for y'all, it's healthcare and this ministry that you have, and for us, it's the food freedom and food production. And so that was what he was that passionate about. And so, there have been people throughout history and certainly the American history, and that we're a little more aware of, that have done those kind of things, for things that you're like, man, I don't understand how they do that. And why is it that important? Well, I think at the end of the day, aside from our faith and our family, what we put into our bodies each day is probably one of the most important things important decision that we make every day. And so that's something that we felt like was worth a battle and worth bringing attention to, and worth standing up for what we felt like was a freedom that should not be infringed upon and should not be trampled on.
And my recollection might be faulty, but basically my recollection of how that panned out is that essentially the bureaucrats were telling them, you have to have us say, you have to come to us and say, Mother, may I, before you can be selling these things.
Sure.
And he said, no, I don't think the Constitution says that. Right. And he eventually won that legal battle.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of it. It's spelled out in the book, Everything I Want to Do is Illegal.
Right.
That was
in your dad's book, Everything I Wanted to Do is
written
Illegal.
by Joel Salatin, exactly. Yeah. But you hit it in a nutshell, and the fact that each state is very different, and each area is a little different. And at the end of the day, it is a judgment call based on the decision of that particular inspector or that particular regulator. And it is a political battle. It's fought politically. It's fought with attorneys. It's fought with that don't have to be expensive. There's organizations out there now that will help you. And at the same time, there are ways to stand on that and know your rights and know what you're able to do. And that applies to everything, whether it's homeschooling or whatever. There are rights that you have as Americans that we don't take a hold of, and that's a thing that we should all be more aware of. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was there was laws on the books that allowed us to do what we were going to do, and so we were able to keep doing it. And it was just a matter of convincing them that they were not in the right.
It takes the person that wants to be the pioneer in that area,
right,
to launch out, but they often can't because their family holds them back.
Sure.
And you as a family supported them in doing that.
Right.
And you as a family and as a Polyface Farms have been training people ever since, right?
Right, that's
correct.
So
tell us about how you do your trainings.
So a couple of our trainings, we do several things. One, we do lots of seminars, we do lots of tours. They're on the farm. Of course, we come to this. Dad's written practically countless books to try to share the information because we believe everybody should do this and it should be accessible to, everyone should have the access to this.
Right.
And everyone should have the knowledge to do this. It's not something maybe you do right now, but it's something you might need to do in the future.
And we're hearing lots of people here saying, well, I was thinking of this in the past decade, or I was thinking of this last 3 or 4 years. This year, going to do it. We gave up our W-2 jobs and we're going out.
Right, and we've seen that. I mean, we're filming this in 2022, and certainly since 2020, everything has definitely changed. We've seen a lot more of that story of the someday becoming today.
Right,
and that's good. At the end of the day, it's good. And so the unsettlement and the unknowns, as the unknowns have grown. Not only do we want to press into our community and our family and our faith, but we also want to press into some of these skills that we thought, it'd be nice to know someday. And so we do that. We also do a steward program. It's a 5-month program for May through September, where folks come to the farm, learn, and can take away all their information and can farm somewhere, or they stay on our farm and continue to do things.
So you call it a steward? Is that like an internship that they have?
It is. We call it a stewardship program because we think names matter.
Right.
I mean, when you're named, that it has meaning on it, right? And so we believe that that's very important. We also believe that it's important that they take hold of that stewardship just as much as myself, that when they're taking care of an animal or taking care of a customer or whatever, that they have just as much authority over that situation as I do. And so we're big on transferring that power onto them and making sure that they have that authority to do what needs to be done.
So how will people be able to contact you if they want to do any of those trainings, or if they just want to purchase some products from Polyface Farms?
Of course. So we're at polyfacefarms.com, so plural because farm was already taken, so, so polyfacefarms.com. And then also if you would like to buy some product or try some other things, we have polyfaceyum.com. And
Yum as in Y-U-M?
Y is in tasty, yummy.
All right.
So polyfaceyum.com, and that you can get stuff shipped all over the country. You can take advantage of products, events, whatever, and check us out there. Polyface Farms, Polyface Yum.
All right, let me just ask you one last question. When you have your booth here, or when you travel around and have your booth, what is the main question that you're asked?
Goodness. I'd say on a practical sense, a lot of it is actual poultry processing, like how do we take care of a poultry, because that's what a lot of people start with, and that's kind of that next step. I mean, you can raise a chicken, but then getting that last step to be able to utilize it yourself, right, is kind of a big question. I think another question is just the lifestyle questions of like, how do you have animals 24/7 and not have a vacation, or just those kind of, I say, lifestyle questions like that. And that's just a generality, but typically it's how do you dispatch and get the chicken ready to go into the oven, and then how do you just embrace that lifestyle. So,
and I think you were mentioning the difference between 2020 and now.
Yes.
Even in Polyface Farms, which is probably one of the best known homesteading groups there is, it's become even more known because so many people realized they had that seismic change in their life that the COVID era did, of where they thought some things were just certain and absolute, and they knew it, and then nothing is absolute anymore, and they realized, I need to take control of my own life.
That's right.
And that's essentially what you help people learn how to do.
That's right, and that is really what it comes down to. And so it's these folks who thought that like I said, that the stock market, the 401k,
my job, my church.
Yep, all those things were all there to stay, and everything was fine, and then it wasn't. And and fortunately, it's come back for a lot of people, and fortunately, it's stabilized for a lot of people. But it was a good wake up call. You know, it's one of those things I would never want anyone to be hurt. But at the same time, this type of unsettlement, I don't want to see anybody in dire poverty, starving, hunger, those kind of things. However, the wake up of the quite literally posh, coddled America that we live in is a good wake up call. I think it's a reality. It's something that's not normal, and we know that when we're worried about these kind of, I think as a culture, we spend a lot of time thinking about the things that we're thinking about in like universities today and things like that. We lose sight of what's really important. And then at the end of the day, we get our priorities really messed up. And so because of that, we become very vulnerable. and typically, again, history repeats itself for a reason.
Yes, it does.
And if we don't pay attention, we start worrying about things that don't matter, and then suddenly we get in trouble. So,
well, Daniel Salatin, thank you so much for what you're doing for helping freedom in America.
Our pleasure. Thank you. You as well.